in his religion, and that man of whatever color or nationality is welcome in his faith.
That is a white man's religion. It is not for you and I. Yes, sir. There is no salvation in Christianity for black people. It has failed to give you justice. Regardless to your preachers and your church pleading to the government for justice, you get none. Regardless to your prayers for the Father and the Son, you get no justice.
All right, dear Father. Give it to us. All right.
Then what good is Christianity to you and I if the religion and the God of that religion will not defend us against lawlessness, against lynchers, against rapers?
After the speech in Uline Arena, Elijah Muhammad elaborated on his charges against Christianity for reporter Lomax.
Christians, then? No. Do you think that Christianity is a religion of deliverance for the black man? No. Do you think that Christianity has been a religion of enslavement for the black man? Yes. What do you think of the... It was Christian fathers who enslaved our fathers. They all was Christians. In fact about it, the white race is really the Christians, as we refer to them. I could never be a Christian, though I joined Christianity, but I could never be a Christian unless I was white. You don't think a black man can be a Christian, sir? By nature, we are not Christian. By nature, we are born Muslims. Do you think that faith is our natural faith? It's the natural religion of man, according to the teachings of the Holy One, 30 and 30. Sir, about how many so-called American Negroes have you been able to convert during the years of your teaching? Oh, that runs into hundreds of thousands. But that don't mean they all have continued to follow on with it. But there has been hundreds of thousands taught.
Thus, the story is told, a small but growing segment of the American Negro population has learned to hate before the Christian white man could learn to love. But what do Negro Christian leaders say? Do they too believe that Christianity has failed the Negro? Is it an instrument of subjugation? Reporter Lomax put these questions to the Reverend Adam Clayton Powell, pastor of the world's largest Protestant congregation.
Do you believe that Christianity, and since you are a Protestant, I will put it in that context, do you believe that Protestantism has been the Negro's friend? Do you think that it has functioned as a religion of deliverance for Negroes, or has it been guilty of dragging its feet, so to speak, on this question?
Well, again, I'd like to say that the words of Jesus weren't aimed at Protestants only. They were aimed at all people, Protestants and Catholics, who believed in Christianity. So I would therefore like to answer your question against that background. I believe that Christianity in the United States has been dragging its feet. I don't think there's any other force in America that has been more detrimental to the solution of our racial problems than Christianity, because you cannot expect the man in the street to practice Christianity better than his priest or his pastor in the pulpit. And the fact that there is more segregation in the United States of America on Sunday morning at 11 o'clock than at any other time in our national life is the tragic proof of what I'm stating.
And so it becomes easier for us to understand why talk of integration has become a kind of wistful pie in the sky for a growing number of Negroes. Easier to understand why they turn to the Muslims, a group they believe will do something for them. Why they lose patience with NAACP talk of gradual integration, when what they want is immediate equality and separation. Is this black supremacist doctrine making headway among New York Negroes? Let's go to the streets of Harlem and find out.
This is classified as hate when we are telling our people that it is time for them to organize and learn to develop respect, recognition for themselves in order that they might obtain a position of self-determination. If this is what is classified as hate, then I suppose I am guilty of preaching such a philosophy.
I've listened to the Elijah Muhammad movement and the Black Nationalist movement, and I have heard the NAACP. And I don't feel that the NAACP's views are the way out. I feel that it would be better if it were more national, rather than integrated with the views of the white man in it, for the simple reason that I think that together with our own people, more can be accomplished, rather than with the white man involved in it also, because as it is, we've already been accepting too many crumbs from this man, and we've never really gotten a real loaf of bread from him.
The only thing I disagree with the NAACP about is that we've been waiting long enough. The Supreme Court handed down a decision in 1954, and we're still waiting for our schools to be integrated in the South. I've read some of Mr. Muhammad's articles in the Pittsburgh Courier. He is a Muslim. I agree with him. He says we've been waiting long enough.
Only recently that the people that have been listening to these speakers have become more tense, to the extent that when they read newspapers about brutality in the South, women are being beat with clubs in Africa. And everywhere you read the headlines, black people are being beat, lynched, killed, for no reason at all. And they began to get nervous about it, and somebody needs to do something, and that is quick.
We asked NAACP Executive Secretary Roy Wilkins if these extremists are involved in the recent racial unrest up in Harlem.
Preaching of racial hatred and racial advantage and the bigotry involved is a bad thing, whether it's colored or white. Now, for years, the NAACP has been opposed to white extremists preaching hatred of Negro people, and we are equally opposed to Negro extremists preaching against white people simply for the sake of whiteness. Now, what effect this has had on the Harlem community, I can't say, because many police incidents have taken place in Harlem, and I believe that a sort of community attitude has been built up. It may be that these extremists have sharpened it and have recruited some more extremists to their banner. If so, that would be deplorable.
Then we tried to find out what is the political impact, the political strength of these black supremacists. And this is what we discovered. Their influence far outruns their numbers. They're vocal. They get out on the streets and stir up sentiment. During political campaigns, they choose candidates, and their street corner speakers weave political campaigning in and out of their black supremacist teachings. Reporter Lomax asked James Lawson, president of the United African Nationalist Movement, to what extent his group supported such politicians as Congressman Adam Clayton Powell and Manhattan Borough President Jack.
Participate in the politics of Harlem.
Oh, sure.
Do you support candidates actively?
Very seldom.
But on some occasions you do support candidates.
When we feel that the issues are great enough.
Well, I think perhaps Adam Clayton Powell is the best known politician in Harlem. Have you supported Adam Clayton Powell?
In the last election.
You did support him in the last election?
Yes.
Did you actively support him on the streets?
Yeah.
What does Adam Powell think of you?
Well, you'd have to ask the congressman that.
Has he ever given you any indication what he thinks of you?
Oh, he has.
For example?
Well, he wasn't able to attend the African Freedom Day rally, and he did write a very fine tribute to the United African Nationalist Movement and its leadership.
That's you and your organization?
No, I said the United African Nationalist Movement and its leadership.
Yes.
I happen to be the president.
Yes. Is it true that he recently wrote you letter in which he indicated what he thought of you personally.
Well, yes. I think it was involving issues, and they were very fine and wonderful praises come from both the minister and the congressman.
Well, without breaching any confidences, can you tell us in essence what he said about you in the letter he wrote to you?
Well, he said that he felt that the United African Nationalist Movement was doing a great job in the struggle for the liberation of Africa, the program of Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. And he felt that many things wouldn't have been done if it wasn't for the existence of this organization.
Now, do you have the same kind of feeling and relationship with regard to Borough President Hewlin Jack?
Yes, yes. I'll tell you the truth. You know, we're all members of the same order.
All members of the same order?
Well, the Order of the Star of Ethiopia.
Did you support Borough President Hewlin Jack in the last election?
Yes.
Should he be a candidate in the coming election, will you support him then?
Oh, we expect him to be a candidate.
And you expect to support him?
We expect not only to support him because we know that there are many people, after getting the borough presidency away from our people here in Harlem.
Then reporter Lomax asked both Adam Powell and Hewlin Jack about Mr. Lawson's statements.
Mr. Lawson told us that on several occasions he has supported you in your campaigns.
True.
And on one occasion he said he received a letter from you in which you gave him your blessings. I think he was on his way.
Oh, he's on the way to the All-African People's Congress in Accra, Ghana, which was held last December 12th.
Should one take this to mean that you approve of him and what he's doing, what he's saying?
No, I don't approve of any form of extremism, but I again say that I believe in the right of all people to follow whatever document or whatever doctrine they believe in, and the right for me to oppose or to support.
The Amsterdam News quotes you from a speech delivered at a rally sponsored in Harlem by the United African Nationalist Movement. The rally was commemorating African Freedom Day, I believe. And you were quoted as having said, "Henceforth we are no longer Negroes, but rather Americans of African descent." Is this an accurate quotation?
Yes, Mr. Lomax.
Do you really feel this way, sir?
I do feel that way.
Do you proudly associate yourself with African nationalist movements?
No, as Borough President of Manhattan, I have been asked by that group to issue a proclamation, and I was happy to do it because of the fact that it indicated a certain date which was designated not by me, but publicly designated as the day known as African Day.
So you have issued, I believe, in the past 2 years, 2 or more proclamations for the United African Nationalist Movement. One on Garvey Day, I believe, and then later one for African Freedom Day. Is this true, sir?
Yes, well, all of us are certainly in knowledge of the contribution made by Marcus Garvey.
Yes. Now, let me see if I understand you correctly. Are you saying, sir, that you are not a member of the United African Nationalist Movement, but that you do consider these people a substantial, respected group in the community, and that you acceded to their request to issue proclamations? Is this what you're saying?
That's quite right, Mr. Lomax.
What do Congressman Powell and Borough President Jack know about the Muslims? Reporter Lomax asked both men to comment on the Muslims and their teachings. The exchange begins as Hewlin Jack admits that he welcomed Elijah Muhammad to New York, and then that he, Jack, spoke at a Muslim rally.
Yes, I greeted him as Borough President of Manhattan.
Should this be taken to mean that you agree with his religious, political, economic philosophy?
I know nothing about Mohammedanism. I have never sought to know anything about it.
You spoke at one of his meetings, didn't you?
I spoke as president of the Borough of Manhattan and expressed the greetings of the Borough of Manhattan to this man who had come here for the meeting of these people.
At the meetings, what did you say? Did you support the Muslim movement? Did you support them in their notions that the white man is a snake and a devil and should be destroyed?
I have no reason in the world to support that idea, because this world has on it white men, black men, yellow men, brown men, and all must live together in peace and harmony, and that has been my background ever since I've known my existence.
I understand you properly. You have said to me that you issue these plaques, that you attend these meetings because as borough president of Manhattan, you have to recognize the existence of these groups. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, sir, with no harm meant, but if the White Citizens Council had a meeting, would you give them a plaque? Would you attend their meeting and speak?
Well, the White Citizens Council is not in existence in Manhattan, and certainly should have no reason for existence.
Congressman, I want to return again to the Muslims of whom we spoke earlier. You say you know Minister Malcolm X,
yes,
and you respect him as a very brilliant man.
I think he's a very brilliant man, yes.
They teach, and he said it to this reporter, among other things, that the proper interpretation of the incident in the Garden of Eden is that Adam and Eve were black men and that the serpent was a white man who came in and, to say the least, brought on disquietude, and that the white man is not a devil, but the devil, a snake of the grafter type, and must be destroyed. How does this sound?
I totally disassociate myself from any such belief, just as I totally disassociate myself from the belief of some of my fellow clergymen who preach that there is no room in Christianity for a black man except as a servant and a slave.
But Congressman, in all 20th century seriousness, would it disturb you if the reverse took place, if a white group had such a school and they were teaching their children that Negroes were snakes and devils and should be destroyed? In all seriousness, sir, wouldn't that disturb you?
Oh, it disturbs me that he preaches that kind of doctrine of hate, because I don't know of any religion that has in it a principle of hatred. There are various degrees of love, but not any degrees of hate.
The man called brilliant at the beginning of that colloquy by Adam Powell, the man who preached a vesper service in Adam Powell's church, this man, Malcolm X, is, as we said, by his own admission, a former dope peddler and procurer, an ex-convict who served time in Michigan and Massachusetts prisons. He is now a changed man, he says, because Elijah Muhammad's personal brand of Islam taught him no longer to be ashamed to be a black man. So it becomes evident that responsible leaders of the Negro community are fully aware of the activities and the teachings of the black supremacists. Now we ask, in what measure has the white man earned the hate of these extremists? To what extent does Christianity deserve to be called by these groups the religion of enslavement? To place this aspect of our story in perspective, Newsbeat visited Dr. Anna Arnold Hedgeman. When the ideal of integration was just a timid dream for the Negro, Ann Hedgeman was executive director of the National Committee for a Permanent FEPC. She has served with distinction as administrative aide to the Federal Security Administration of Oscar Ewing and to New York's Mayor Robert Wagner. Dr. Hedgeman lives among her fellow Negroes. She knows their problems. Newsbeat reporter Lou Lomax asks Dr. Hedgeman her opinion of the creed of black supremacy.
Dr. Hedgeman, how long have you lived in Harlem?
About 30 years.
Then you are thoroughly familiar with the goings-on in the Harlem community.
Well, now, I don't know what you mean by goings-on, Louis, but I'm very familiar with Harlem, let us say.
Now, Dr. Hedgeman, let's get down to brass tacks, so to speak. What would be your reaction if a white group held a rally at 42nd and Broadway and said the kinds of things about Negroes that these street corner orators are saying about whites and Jews?
First of all, I would be opposed to it no matter who did it. I want that on the record. However, the situations are not analogous.
Why aren't they analogous?
For the very simple reason that America has bottled up the Negro in such fashion that what he pours out is his complete reaction to frustration on the one hand and his objection to much of the unintelligent way in which he has been handled as an American.
But now, pardon me, but aren't you saying this, that previous condition of servitude or state of persecution justifies the preaching of race hate, whereas the absence of this historical business does not justify it?
No, I did not say it's justified. I said this is the reason.
Well, is it right?
Absolutely it's not right, no matter who does it.
Does it offend the democratic ethic?
Yes, but you see, America's policy defends it.
But what about the attacks on Christianity, both by the Muslims and the black nationalists? Reporter Lomax learned that Dr. Hedgeman herself in a recent speech had commented on the color of Jesus' skin.
During a recent speech before a group of graduate nurses, I believe, you said, and I hope I quote you correctly, God may not be black.
Not God.
But he certainly isn't white. Is that a direct quote?
We're talking about Jesus, actually.
Yes. What is your quote on that?
My quote is that Jesus may not have been black, but he certainly was not white.
Is it important?
Very important.
Why?
I think maybe some of us like to say as Christians that there's no picture of Jesus in the Bible because everybody then could claim him. And you see, you claim when pressure has been put upon you to claim things in terms of color, as it has in this country. You want a piece of this guy who was a terrific prophet.
And to have a piece of him, so to speak, means that he should look
like you, a little like you, yes.
Physically.
Just a little, yes, because America...
Not in terms of mind or spirit or belief.
Physically, too, because America has made this important, you see. We've made this important everywhere. One goes down the streets in Bombay and sees the models, not brown Indian girls, but Anglo-Saxon girls, because the British then were in control.
Well, now, when you say that this color factor should emerge, isn't this, in a sense, a return to tribalisms?
America is about at the tribalistic stage, yes.
You really believe this?
Yes, color-wise, on this issue of color, yes. America, I don't know why white people are so absolutely wound up on this business, but it has to be white. If you could manage it, you ought to be white with blue eyes and blonde hair.
So we learn that a growing segment of the Negro population is losing faith in the American dream. They reject the designation of Negro. They consider themselves rather Americans of African descent. And reporter Lomax asks Dr. Hedgeman to explain why.
Speaking of these forces, these groups in Harlem are now preaching something of a nationalist gospel. They are saying that the American Negro should, in a sense, identify himself with Africa. How do you feel about this?
I feel, again, this is the temper of the world today. Everybody is looking for something which belongs to him. And this is the thing that the American Negro looks for. He wanted it to be America, because he's the most American of any group here.
Why doesn't he identify with America?
America has never permitted, thou shalt not this, thou shalt not that, reserved for whites only. Remember? You should ask me this question.
Well, do you feel that the American Negro is an African?
Of course he's part African.
But isn't he part something else?
Oh, he's many other things. He actually, is he's the real American.
Then why...
He's some of everything.
Then why isolate Africa to identify with? Why not identify with some other source of one's culture?
Because the largest portion of him is African.
And there you have it. Tragic and irrefutable evidence that a small but growing segment of the American Negro population is giving ear to a flagrant doctrine of black supremacy. I think that we stated our basic convictions about the matter when we entitled this program, The Hate That Hate Produced. Even so, it is still hate, organized hate. Before asking our panel what can be done about the rising tide of black supremacy movements, I'd like to talk for a minute with my colleague Lou Lomax, who did the research and the interviews for this story. Lou, you've written for such magazines as The New Leader, The Nation, Pageant. As a staff writer for the Chicago American, you covered the school integration disputes in Clinton, Tennessee, and Sturgis Clay, Kentucky, Little Rock. How would you compare this assignment with others that you've been on?
Mike, this one was a little rough. Whenever you are covering a story that involves the emotions of people, there's always an element of danger. This is the first time I think my color's ever been in my favor rather than against me, but on the whole, I would say that this assignment was a little rough.
Rough in what sense, Lou?
Well, let me give you a couple of instances. The night we did the piece on the Harlem street corner where you heard Mr. Davis and the phony liberals bit, I had with me the camera crew and Dan Meenan and Sandy Goodman of our staff. All of them are white. We were, in a sense, menaced. They were called bad names. I was called a dirty, no-good nigger who brought the people up to spy, this kind of thing. A crowd gathered, and we were a little bit apprehensive. In Washington, for the Muslim rally, I was all right. The camera crew, again, was white. They were in a little bit of danger, and one or two times the cameraman wandered away from the camera, and some of the Muslims came up to me and said, you are responsible for these white men, and we don't want them running around loose. You better go with them wherever they're going.
As you see it, Lou, why is it that some Negroes, these Negroes we've been talking about tonight, have returned hate for hate, while others have not?
Well, I think one of the reasons is that the Christian notion of turning the other cheek has stuck. This is one reason why the Muslims must undo Christianity, so to speak, if they are to succeed. And then recent advancements in race relations, from the integrationist point of view, these advancements have justified the sober-minded Negro's faith. Then there is this, Mike. We Negroes have invested quite a bit in America. It's not my fault that we're here, and it's not your fault as a white man that the race problem exists. America was born with a race problem, and we've helped to eliminate it. Our backs have borne a great deal of the burden, and the general feeling is that America is on the upbeat, that we're going up, that our country is getting better, and I see no point in turning our backs upon America now. It's like pushing the wagon up the hill and then refusing to ride down. And I think this is the attitude of most Negroes. I hope so, anyway.
Thank you, Lou, and we'll be back with you in just a moment. Well, there is our story and our reporter's comment on it. But the ultimate burden of all of this rests on the New York community, Negro and white. And we have asked 5 members of that community to join Mr. Lomax and me to discuss the implications of this story. And we'll begin that discussion in just a couple of minutes after these commercial messages.
He has written a book called The Message to the Black Man in America, which will soon be published. And we have used this book to base a number of our questions to Mr. Muhammad. Mr. Muhammad, in this book you make a number of stipulations which we would like to press you on in the course of the session today. One, you call for the separation of the Negro into a separate state, either in the United States or made possible by the United States. Two, you say that war between the whites and the blacks is inevitable.
Yes. I'm very glad to answer these questions, Mr. Clark, to you and to the world. They are most essential that we should give the world the answer to such questions. I have been preaching and teaching the answers to these questions for many years. I give thanks first, Mr. Cup, to God, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad around 34 years ago now to me. And all that I have and been teaching, it is from him. And it is very easy for us to recognize the visit of this mighty one according to the time. If we have the knowledge of the time that we are living in, we can accept and respect this mighty visitor in this part of the world to fulfill that which was written of him, that he will come. And now he has come, and he has given out his purpose and his aims, as it also is written in the Bible and Quran. And therefore, I have nothing of myself in this answer. It is all from him.
From him, you mean the messenger of Allah?
No, not the messenger of Allah. I'm the messenger of Allah. I mean from Allah himself, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad.
Who preceded you as the head of the Muslims?
Well, he was actually the beginner. Yes, sir. And I'm taught by him. This separation we begin with, it is